This magnificent 3-pound organ we call our brain controls every aspect of our life. It can remember the most minute detail as a child. It manages our movement. It allows us to think critically and creatively. It guides our emotions, if it's love or joy or hate. It processes over 70,000 thoughts per day, utilizing 100 billion neurons and 500 trillion connection points. Yet, we as Americans abuse it day in and day out by how we eat and how we sleep and how we manage stress, just to name a few. I'm Greg Cini, co-owner of Kemper House, Central Ohio, a specialized Alzheimer and dementia care. And we work every day to push back against cognitive decline and dementia for our residents. So I'm here today to provide you with 3 learning objectives. We're going to focus on the causes of cognitive decline, the symptoms of normal versus abnormal cognitive decline, and the 6 pillars of brain health. And then I'll leave you with some things that you can immediately do to begin your journey towards optimizing your cognition. I always like to start with daily habits because that's at the root of cognitive decline, and it really has a direct impact on brain function and our behaviors, and then ultimately leads to joy and happiness in our life, or it leaves us with a life that's being dictated by poor health and poor brain function. Our first learning objectives are, what are the causes of cognitive decline? And they've predicted that approximately 50% of Alzheimer and dementia disease causes may be related to these types of things that are totally modifiable risk factors that include type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, being an over-medicated society, obesity, smoking, depression, the lack of mental or physical activity and exercise, and a very poor diet. Some of the things that are non-modifiable risk factors in our life are our age. As we age, it's just proven that there is a certain amount of normal cognitive decline. We can't control our genetics or our gender. I did want to touch on a few of the modifiables. And the one that always stands out to me is us as Americans are just an overprescribed country. Last year alone, the healthcare community had prescribed over 4.38 billion prescriptions. So if you take every man, woman, and child in the US and divide that over, it's 13 prescriptions per person. And that's expected to grow over the next 10 years. Another thing is important for me to touch on is our diet. Over 60% of the American diet consists of what we're calling ultra-processed foods like cereals and cheeses and milks and breads and cookies and chips and all the other junk that we're putting in our body. And the simple thing is this type of diet plays havoc on our health and our cognition and can accelerate the symptoms of dementia and cognitive decline as we age. And just so you know, the FDA is not protecting us. They put a lot of approved ingredients in ultra processed food like arsenic and synthetic food additives, excuse me. And so bottom line is what we're putting in our body, we need to really be discerning about. If you're seeing some of these things in your shelves, let's get rid of it. Stop buying it. It's just poison to our health and our cognition. The second learning objectives are the symptoms of normal versus abnormal cognitive decline. That really, when you're looking at normal cognitive decline, it's really a mild change in condition. And what it mostly affects is our speed of thinking and our ability to pay attention to things. Anything more than that, if you're starting to rapidly forget things, or if you're having trouble navigating common areas, common spaces, or solving problems like balancing your checkbook, expressing yourself uh, with utilizing the right words because you're forgetting meanings, and then also you having conversations that just sort of are outside social norm or social rule, high sexual content, those types of things. And then also losing motor skills. You start seeing excessive tripping and falls, and even body tremors. Some additional symptoms that you want to look out for are getting lost in familiar places, going down to the convenience store and then forgetting how to get back home is a common one. Repetitive questions and comments within minutes of one another. Behavior that's inappropriate. I mentioned the sort of leaning towards the sexual orientation is often one that people fall into. The being forgetful about recent events, and even personality changes, decline in planning and organization skills, as well as dietary changes, forgetting to actually eat or losing the sense of hunger. And also hygiene can become an issue. And we also see an increase, a sense of apathy. I always like to slow down right now, because if people are starting to have concerns about their own cognition, they're always asking, when is the right time and what is the best action? That's a common question that I get asked. Well, I always tell them, I tell them, go to your family physician, have conversation with them. Sometimes they can administer an assessment, but most of the time request an appointment with a neurologist, and take that time to go through that assessment process and really see what you're dealing with. There's also some ways to do some self-examination that, if you want to discuss that further, just because of time limitations, you can contact me after this presentation. I'd be glad to share those with you. The third learning objective is our 6 pillars of brain health, which is really where the rubber meets the pavement. And I'll go through all 6 of those briefly. The first is food and nutrition. And I always tell people the best 3 things they can immediately do is remove processed ingredients from their diet, such as white sugars and white flours, remove preservatives and additives, and go to a more farm-to-table approach style of eating. Eat like our grandparents used to eat, where they would go out to their back garden and pick the greens and the fruits that they would need, and go pull the eggs out of the chicken coop that they had. And so when you think of eating in that sense, we can still do that. It's just through farmers market and different sources that are locally sourced versus being brought in from around the world and processed and picked too early. Also, when you are shopping in the grocery store, take the time to be discerning and read the labels, scan them, and if there's words that you can't read, you probably don't want to put them in your body. At Kemper House, we believe strongly in utilizing the MIND diet. It's a combination of the Mediterranean DASH diet, and it's really focused on a brain healthy diet that moves towards more berries and poultry and fish. And we're talking wild caught fish, not farm raised. If you saw those conditions, you definitely would not be eating farm raised fish. And also whole grains. Some of the foods we avoid are butter, cheese, red meats, and fried foods, which I know I love them too, but we have to get them out of our diet in order to optimize our cognition. Physical exercise is pillar number 2, and we know for a fact that a healthier body is a healthier brain, which helps us to maximize our cognition. And when we're talking physical fitness, we're talking multimodal. So as you're exercising and you're increasing your heart rate and blood flow to your brain and oxygen to your brain, it's in that moment that you want to cognitively challenge yourself with some type of gamification, multiplication, spelling quizzes, Sudoku, those types of things while you're exercising, while you're riding the stationary bike. You can challenge yourself. We actually have equipment behind us that does all that stuff here at Kemper House, and it's built into the machinery themselves. Ultimately, spending about 150 minutes per week of solid exercise is important to optimizing cognition. Medical health, so managing things like hypertension, diabetes, obesity, depression, head traumas if you're out skating, rollerblading, skiing, wear a helmet. They've attributed direct connection between concussions and dementia. And then also managing cholesterol. So the really main point is get your annual checkups and really follow your doctor's recommendations. The fourth pillar is sleep and relaxation. We know that high quality sleep improves our energy, our mood, our immune system. And then we've also believed that it reduces what they call abnormal proteins in our brains, the plaques in our brains that tend to cause certain types of dementia. I suggest room darkening shades, so the darker the environment, the better you sleep. And then also cool environments. So rooms that are anywhere from 62 to 65 degrees are optimal. It's better to blanket yourself up than peel stuff off as you're sweating to death in a hot box. Mental fitness. So we're talking brain exercises. Use it or lose it. It improves brain function. We know that for a fact. It can help to produce new brain cells, and it decreases the development of dementia. Some of the things that we're talking about when we're talking about cognitive exercises that are easy for you to do in your home, or singing and playing an instrument, learning a new language, arts and crafts, and doing logic puzzles or jigsaw puzzles or Sudoku, those types of things that are challenging you cognitively. It's really in that point of learning or challenging yourself cognitively that you're creating new neurons, and that's in the moment where you're getting the most out of the cognitive exercise. There's also some gamification that you can load on a computer or a smart device, things like Brain HQ, Sharp Brains, Private Eye, Word Crunch. Those are really good apps that you can utilize to, especially while you're exercising. And some of them help to keep your brain nimble and elastic. The sixth and final pillar is social interaction. Staying connected is incredibly important to our cognition, and we tend to, as we age, become less and less connected and more isolated. And that really is no good for brain function. And so really staying socially connected, going to places like Sourcepoint and these senior centers that are in your community, and staying active with friends and family will help to fight against memory loss, and it avoids depression and loneliness, and improves brain health, and it just ultimately helps you stay engaged with your surrounding and stay connected with your family and friends. And it's just incredibly important to brain health. Some other good habits that we want to go after are avoiding all tobaccos, limit alcohol use. Drinking a glass of wine a night is actually decent for you. Drinking a beer every once in a while, that's fine. It's just that excessive use. protecting your brain. So if you're doing these high active sports, make sure you're wearing helmets and protecting against concussion. And then staying on top of your cognition with cognitive checkups. I'll tell you, Kemper House offers free memory screening. So if you're interested in that, you're more than welcome to reach out to me after this presentation, and I'd be glad to give you one of our free cognitive assessments. It's called CogniView. It's the first FDA-approved cognitive risk assessment machine, and it only takes 10 minutes, and it's worth it. So a few quick takeaways just to wrap up here. High quality of sleep. We talked about 8 to 12 hours in room darkening. Don't spend time with the TV and the smart devices, your phones, right before you go to bed. That blue light plays with your circadian cycle and makes it difficult for you to get to sleep. Meditation is powerful, 7 to 15 minutes per day. There are apps that you can download in order to help you with this. Eating right, remember the mind diet, even if you only use it 50% of the time, it's shown itself to help reduce the risk of dementia. Body fitness, so combining aerobic with weightlifting and then it being multimodal and adding that cognitive challenging portion to it as you're increasing blood flow to your brain. Brain fitness, we talked about gamification with those apps, and then also learning. It's in that learning is where it makes the most difference. Learning a new song, learning a new language, learning an instrument, those types of things. And then staying socially active beats the heck out of depression, and depression can cause cognitive decline quicker than almost anything. Well, I hope at this point I've at least provided you some clarity and direction on the causes of cognitive decline, some of the symptoms behind abnormal decline, and showed you the true strength in the 6 pillars of brain health, and then shared with you some takeaways. And I hope that you can immediately apply those to your life and really make a difference with it. At the end of the day, love your brain, care for your brain, create an environment that allows it to perform its best, and it will do great things for you. Thank you, and God bless.